When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for coming back to the podcast. My special guest today is Mr. Michael Eldridge, who runs the YouTube channel Acapeldridge, which I stumbled upon maybe 6 months ago and thoroughly enjoy. Enjoy some great music on there. So welcome Michael to the podcast, and we'll let him tell us all about the idea behind the channel.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it. It kind of started probably back in 2016 or 17. A good friend of mine showed me basically just a simple iPhone app where I could record myself singing multiple times and stack them on top of each other. And it's something that I've always wanted to do. And so that kind of gave me the spark to do it a little bit more seriously and dig into how I could, really get into it and doing it well from a production standpoint. So it's been a few years and a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of long, hard-working nights at the very beginning, but it's been a lot of fun.
Okay. And talk about your background and your origins in music to begin with. You said you found an app to put your singing into purpose, so to speak, and put that on a YouTube channel. But talk about your history in music.
Sure. So I would say my beginning in music was just from singing in church with my family. We grew up singing a cappella hymns and still do sing a cappella. And so sitting next to my mom and dad and my grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins, singing with them was kind of how I learned to sing. When I was really young, my mother had taken us to piano lessons. And so that was kind of my introduction to music theory. I played the trumpet in the high school band for a couple of years and then joined choir in high school. And then while I was in college at Purdue, I sang in the Glee Club. So I have had music in my life in some form or fashion all of my life, but it really all began singing in church.
Okay. And what faith tradition do you come from, Michael?
We're a part of the Church of Christ.
Oh, so am I. It's a small world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. And I figured you had to have been, either affiliated with the Church of Christ or another one of the Church of Christ type traditions, because most people these days have some sort of band. Even some of the Church of Christ are going to a little bit more of a praise team type thing. And who knows, maybe one day they may even have instruments. But
Right.
there's something about a cappella music that I think resonates, because at its core, it's basic singing from individuals. There's no, unless you put accompaniment with it, I mean, it just kind of stands on its own.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about that style of music that appeals to you most? Is it just that's what you're used to in your tradition, or just something, does something else speak to you about it?
I think familiarity is certainly a part of that. That's what I've gotten used to singing and being a part of. But as I've gotten older and I've had more time to think about why that is the case for me, I find a greater sense of fellowship in singing with people. When I was growing up and when I was in high school, it used to be more about the vocal exercise that, I wanted to sing the fastest song or the most vocally challenging song. And now I've come to appreciate the simpler songs with the deeper meanings, singing with people who I have deep fellowship with. The Bible says that we're supposed to speak to one another when we sing. And I find that that's becoming more and more true for me when it's just simple, when I can look in the eyes of the people that I'm singing with. And the things that I'm singing are things that I believe, and the things that they're singing are things that they believe. And we affirm our testimony together. That is what singing is supposed to all be about. It's not about the vocal cords. It's not about the way that waves vibrate through the air. It's about meaningful words and eternal principles that we affirm together when we sing.
Okay. And your church that you attend now, would you categorize it as a small church, sort of a mid-sized church, or a large church?
I would say it's probably mid-size. I've been a part of larger churches and I've been a part of smaller churches. Where I grew up in Connorsville, our group was probably around 50 or 60. And right now, my church in Fort Wayne that I'm a part of, probably around 100, 120 or
Okay.
so. So
Okay. All right. Very good. Now, talk about the style. We've got a cappella music, and and a lot of these are the hymn traditions. The way that those some of those tunes are composed, most of them have a deep, profound backstory. Are there any of the hymns that you sing whose backstory really resonates maybe with you personally, like maybe a parallel, maybe to something that maybe you've gone through?
some of the stories are well known. Some of them you have to dig around quite a bit for. Um, I find myself whenever I'm leading songs and looking at the song itself and seeing who the author is. There are some times where I cannot help but share the backstory. And it seems like most of the time when that's the case, it's by Fanny J. Crosby
I
because
know.
I
Yeah.
find her story to be incredibly encouraging. Just the things that she dealt with in her own life. And well, I guess one of those songs that sticks out to me right now is All the Way My Savior Leads Me,
Hmm.
which is one of those old classic songs, what I call FJCs, Fanny J. Crosby classics. So, but I mean, that's a song talking about Jesus leading you. It's even more potent when you realize that it was written by a woman who was blind.
Right.
And truly, we're all blind if you think about it, in the same way that Isaac Newton said, was blind, but now I see in Amazing Grace. So
Hmm.
that's one that comes to mind off the top of my head, but there are a lot of great stories.
Right. And I know for people who don't know about Fanny Crosby, I mean, she wrote over 4,000 hymns, something like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, one of the most prolific. And she wrote a great number of hymns with a pseudonym as well.
Mhm.
As if she was trying to say, like, I feel like my name is out there enough, but I can't stop writing. Um, so there are a lot of hymns of hers that we probably sing that we don't know are written by her too.
And so many people have stories where a tragedy befalls them, and some people take that tragedy and they turn it around, do something positive and something good and encouraging with it. And other people, they just sort of fall into a slump and disappear. And some people could just slip off into obscurity, but she started writing hymns, some of the most profound
Yeah.
hymns in our tradition.
Yeah. Well, hers happened at a very young age. She hadn't, like you said, she had perfect vision.
Mhm.
But yeah, she was treated by some quack doctor who really didn't know what he was doing and basically applied mustard gas to her eyes.
Yes.
And but yeah, she took that and became an incredibly encouraging person in God's kingdom, worker in God's kingdom. One of the things that she said that I really appreciate the most. There was somebody who'd come up to her and was trying to comfort her by saying how sad it was that of all the great things God had given her, he hadn't given her the ability to see. And she countered by saying, the first thing that my eyes will see is my Jesus.
Hmm.
Um, so it's all about perspective. Whenever you're going through those hardships, you can totally melt, you can totally fall apart and just sink into a disrepair. Or you can grab some traction from God and just move forward one step at a time with the grace he gives.
Have you found yourself with any difficult times in your life where falling back on some of those songs that resonate with you have helped you get through tough times?
I have. There are certain songs, I guess when you grow up kind of singing these songs, you don't know it, but they're becoming part of an arsenal. They're becoming part of a toolbox that you're going to use in the future and you don't yet know it. And one of those songs that I've recently found to be really comforting to me is a newer song. It's written within the last 20 years called Jesus Draw Me Ever Nearer. And I remember when I first heard about that song, I was speaking with some cousins and I was looking for recommendations of songs to sing. And I asked them, I said, what's the song that just breaks people down as soon as they start singing it? And they're like, this one, sing that one. I'd never heard it before, but I looked it up and I remember looking at the lyrics and singing through it and being like, oh, yeah, I can see why somebody going through difficult times would really feel emotional singing this song. And it's not been, but a few years since I sang that song, and I found it to be incredibly emotional. Where
Hmm.
recently going through some different things, I find it to really just be a way that the music of a song that you sing ties together with the lyrics that you sing, and together the product just combines to lift your heart and reach out to God in a way that singing notes by themselves or speaking words by themselves couldn't. The combined product is greater than the sum of its parts.
Hmm. Some of the songs, hymns that we sing, like one, for instance, actually, I think it's the one that turned me on to your channel. I was just, as many people do, we go on YouTube and we just start searching things. The rendition you have of "The Lord is My Shepherd," and I really, really like that song. And the way you sing it is not like I've heard anyone else sing it on YouTube. I have visited Catholic churches before, just for various reasons, and there's a part of their service where they kind of, I would say, sing a verse. Of course, and you know what I'm talking about. They have a little bit
Yeah.
different tradition there, but talk about some of those traditions where certain faiths will sing like chanting almost, but then the way you sing a verse is more, I guess, of a contemporaneous style.
Well, so that specific song actually comes from a Scottish psalter. It is difficult to find. I don't know why, but it just so happened to be in the songbook that I sang growing up. But I guess when I think Scottish psalter, I think Scottish Presbyterians. So that may be the case. I may be inaccurate in there. But yeah, there are different traditions by different groups out there. Some they're special in their own ways. Sometimes it's the simplicity of a song like that, of a chant, where it's not overly complex and you're singing it all together, you're chanting it all together. Sometimes it's the unison of thought that makes that kind of thing special. The song that I have sung, the Lord's my shepherd, obviously comes from the 23rd Psalm, which many people know. And so that makes it a little bit special there too. It makes you able to relate to it easier. But yeah, there's something simple and something beautiful in singing hymns straight from the Bible as well. It's not a thought that's invented by man. It's as if God breathed the word into Scripture, and now we're breathing it back to Him in song.
Hmm. Hmm. So when did you decide to put together a YouTube channel and put some of your works out there?
Pretty shortly after I was able to realize that I had a presentable product. So that app that I first used on my iPhone, it was very basic, very crude. It was basically just it gave me the ability to see what it could look like. But I remember working with who's become my music producer now, named Steven Shoebrooks in New York. He worked with me really, really quite a bit in those first days to get the sound that I was looking for and to use the equipment the way it's supposed to be used. And the first song that I had been working on was Jesus' Name Above All Names, which is one of the first videos I had put out too. And a short song, probably only about a minute long of a track. But I remember when I finally got the sound the way I had wanted it to be, I remember listening to it for about 3 hours, just from about 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. Once I heard the track, I just could not stop listening to it. It just gave me a great amount of joy because I knew I would be able to work with that and do something with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it received a strong response. And some of my initial work received a lot of traction from family and friends, but then it quickly spread out from their contacts as well, people who really appreciated that presentation.
Mm-hmm. Had you done any production work before you started the YouTube channel?
No, no. My experience in audio files, sound creation and making music and then producing videos was absolutely zero. And I still think I'm terrible at it. I really only figured out how to do the very few things that I need to know how to do, and anything else I can't do. And I still don't understand. And oftentimes I remember I had sung through several songs on my first couple of albums and thinking, why does this specific song sound weirder, like just from an ear
Right.
standpoint, than this one? Turns out I had the microphone backwards, the things that I don't even
Oh.
think about, like just basic stuff. So yeah, I really only know how to do the few things that I needed to do to present it in this way.
Hmm.
But other than that, it's not my first primary form of work or expertise at all. So
Okay, okay. And so when you're not doing voice and video recording, do you have a day job, or is this has this turned into your thing?
this is turned into a full-fledged hobby. It
Oh,
still
okay.
is a good hobby, where
Right.
I'm able to use some of my free time and spare time to throw at this. But yeah, my primary job is as a pharmacist. I work in long-term care with nursing homes and
Oh, okay.
assisted living facilities here in Northeast Indiana.
Hmm. Do you ever find yourself getting requested to sing to some of the patients
Uh,
or
s-
residents?
Sometimes, most of the facilities that I work with don't know. Few of them do know that I've got a YouTube channel, and of those, sometimes they'll ask. Um, I've done a couple hymn sings with one of the facilities I'd worked with, where I'd actually not just myself, but I'd gotten different members of my church. We went to that nursing home and sang some songs with their residents, and they
Okay.
absolutely love that. More recently, there was one of the facilities I work with who said, "Hey, you can sing. Why don't you come sing some Christmas songs for us?" So I did that, and that was a lot of fun too. We just sang a bunch of crooner, the Andy Williams and Bing Crosby songs. So those kind of
Okay.
things.
So have you ever had the aspiration to form a band, so to speak, an a cappella band? I know you do some stuff on there with your family and stuff, but you ever thought of
not
doing something with
not
it?
not too much more than that. If an opportunity like that presented itself to me, I would be more likely to listen to it. But as for just, pushing that thing myself and saying, all right, I'm going to make this work and just
Right.
putting all of my energy behind that, no, I've not had that aspiration. One thing I would really love to do is conduct an orchestra. That is something that that's a bucket list item. That's probably the closest I would like to get to forming a band, which is not really forming a band. It's just standing in front of an orchestra. But
You're
yeah,
the musical engineer, though. You're getting all the parts to come together. So with being a
yeah,
conductor, yeah.
yep.
What goes through your mind, Michael, when you're up there leading singing, whether it's in your church or maybe an event or performance or something like that you may be asked to do?
When I'm leading songs at church, most of the time I kind of lose myself a little bit. I've done it for a long time, for several, a couple decades, just about. And so I've gotten some familiarity and some comfort with the mechanics, so you're no longer thinking about, okay, what am I doing with my hands, and you're able to just kind of sing. Um, I think I'm able to kind of just lose myself in the words and the lyrics. And then occasionally I'm able to reach out to people through song. When you know the song yourself, you're able to comfortably reach out and kind of silently speak to people and connect with people while you're leading songs. So those are some of the things that run through my head just a
Hmm.
bit.
So many people will get their start on a YouTube channel and then maybe it fizzles and goes nowhere. Maybe it kind of idles for a while and then takes off later. Some of them, they just get really popular all of a sudden and people turn that into their career. Do you ever, if your channel got more popular, would you ever see yourself maybe pouring yourself more and more into that and make a go at it? Or are you happy with the balance that you have now between work and hobby?
Well, right now, so thinking about making it my primary career, that's kind of a financial question.
Right.
And so part of what goes into that is how much of my time, if I invest more time, how many hours do I need to invest to make X amount of dollars to where it would make sense for it to be my primary kind of work. And so far, I've found that it's kind of at a plateau where in order to really change that, to move it to a next level, it would require um, something completely different, either live performances to such a degree to where a large number of people were attending to make it financially make sense.
Hmm.
I have gotten invitations to perform in places, churches or small event centers, things like that. But most of the time, it's not enough to merit the time and energy that it would take to do that. And I don't personally feel the need from a fulfillment standpoint to do that. So I kind of feel like I'm in a really good spot from a time standpoint, from a work-life balance. And then I really love my job as a pharmacist. I've always wanted to be a pharmacist, like my grandpa was, like my aunt and uncle were and are. It's part of who I am. And so I find my balance right now is a really good combination of all of the things that make me who I am. And each bucket has the right amount of time, as a husband, as a pharmacist, as a singer, as a speaker. I feel like there's a good balance right now to where it would take something pretty cataclysmic for me to want to change that.
Okay. So I was just looking at the channel and you've got 523,000 subscribers. That's quite a bit of subscribers. How long has the channel been in existence?
2017. Now the YouTube channel, that's been a much slower growth. The first really big growth I got was on Facebook, which spreads more by sharing the post. Whereas YouTube is much more organic and takes a lot longer. It's just as people see the videos and stumble upon them, it grows. And so YouTube was more like this, and then Facebook was more like this.
Oh, wow.
But now YouTube has surpassed Facebook and has for some time. Facebook's been kind of stuck around 325,000 for the last couple of years. But YouTube continues to grow by 3,000 or 4,000 subscribers at least every month. So,
oh, wow. So when did you notice the biggest jump in your YouTube channel?
the first big jump was when I recorded "It Is Well With My Soul."
Right.
And again, that wasn't so much YouTube as it was Facebook, but I mean, in general, social media followers, the first big one was "It Is Well With My Soul." Before that, I think most of my videos had probably gotten in the tens of thousands of views, but "It Is Well" was the first one that got millions of views. And that was a really good thing because that wasn't the first video that I had done by design. I had wanted to create enough content to where when I did have a big video like that, if and when I had a video like that, there would be enough content on the channel for people to hang around and listen to some of the other songs. And obviously over time, that content amount has continued to increase. And so there's enough for people to sit around and listen for a little while.
It seems in a way, if you have a fair amount of success on YouTube, if you put content on there that's, as we would say, timeless in a way. I mean, songs that you're singing, people are always, like me, you're always going to be searching these things out. And if they're popular, I guess from the residual point of view, the business point of view of all this, you could have residuals coming in over time as these things continue to resonate with your audience.
Yeah. And that's part of why my channel's been as successful as it's been, because the songs have been important to people for hundreds of years, and they're going to be important to people for hundreds of years after I'm gone. There are new songs that come around, and every now and then I'll sing them. And I mean, you hear new songs on the radio, but after a while, you don't hear those songs anymore. It's only a select few songs that really are multi-generational. And that's kind of the beautiful thing about the songs that I've grown up singing, and the songs that I'm now singing on this channel. They're important to me because they were important to my parents and my grandparents and their parents. And they're going to be important to my children and their children.
Is it something you still work on every day, or are you slow down, or are you getting ready to pick it back up, or kind of where are you at right now with the channel?
Well, I would like to say that it's something I work on regularly, but I'm not that good at being diligent. It finds that there are other things that pull my time away. And fortunately or unfortunately, I have found out how to manage my time just well enough so I can get what I need to done. But because I know how to do it just well enough, it prohibits me from spending more time, which I probably should, in pushing the channel further. So I'm kind of at this spot where I at least put out a CD every year, every fall, and I have my sights set on that. But every year I begin the year thinking, okay, just record one song a week. And by the time June rolls around, you'll already be done. And June's rolled around, and I think I've recorded 2 or 3 songs all at the beginning of the year when I had great aspirations and the best of intentions. And what typically happens is I get to July and August, and I'm like, okay, I better buckle down. And I make my song list and I start recording the songs. But by that point, I have to do 2 or 3 songs a week. And my voice starts to wear out. And yeah. I
Okay.
wish I were better and more diligent at it, but that's just kind of how it goes over the last 3 or 4 years. So
Right. So, touching briefly on the production aspect, I know you've got the app. I'm assuming you've got some mic equipment, and everything like that. When you sit down, where do you do most of your work? Is there a particular place you like to do that? And talk about, how many takes it's taken you to get these songs the way you want them.
yeah, I have a recording studio in my basement.
Okay.
It used to be an unfinished, really long closet that went from one corner of the house to underneath the stairs. We finished it and hung some drywall and a lot of insulation and a lot of acoustic pads, and I've turned that into a recording studio. Um, it typically takes me. I mean, I'm much more efficient at it now than I was. I would say for any typical song, it's going to take me about an hour, because when I start my recording process, it begins without me singing. First, I record a metronome track into the microphone, kind of singing the song in my head while I listen to the metronome, so I can speed the metronome up if it needs to go faster in a spot, or slow it down, like at the end of a song where you just kind of make it very grand at the very end and then let it settle and sit. Um, so yeah, I'll listen to the metronome first, then I will play each of the piano parts for each, the soprano, alto, tenor, bass. I'll play each part individually on the piano. And then once I've done that, then I will start singing, and I'll sing one part at a time, listening to all of the parts together. And I'll typically do 2 tracks of each part. So that way, typically I'll sing the lead part first, and then probably bass, and then tenor, and then alto. And then I'll do my second round of tracks. And then when I'm doing my second round, I'm able to listen to all of the parts that I've already sung. So I'm kind of singing with 4-part harmony with myself. And I'm able to pull parts back in the balance, or listen to certain things more if I'm having difficulty hearing, or if I need to pull the piano part a little bit louder, one part over the other. So while I'm singing alto, I'll typically pull the other piano parts back and push the alto piano part up a little higher so I can hear that in the balance better. But all of that together keeps me on pitch and keeps me synchronized so that each part is saying the same syllables at the right time. You don't have tons of straight T's and S's and hard consonants, just splattering all over the place like a spread shotgun. And that's all stuff that's taken a long time to figure out how to learn, but has gotten down to a good fine science. So
Right.
It takes me about an hour. Some songs are more complicated and some are simpler.
Okay. So the idea behind this column/podcast is finding people who put their faith into action in some way, whether it's a talent they discovered, or just something that they do that helps put their faith forward in their life and helps other people. And obviously what you're doing falls in that category. With technology now, we can do so many more things that you could have done in the past. You can take an iPhone, like you said earlier, and do quite a bit with that, or an Android in that case as well. Make the pitch for people who have a talent to do something with it. Maybe they set up a YouTube channel or a Facebook page, or maybe they just do something in their community. How can people put their faith into action these days with whatever talent they may have?
I think you have to do it without any expectation of success. And you're doing it not because you think I'm going to make a new career for myself, or I'm going to reach X number of people, hundreds, or, you're doing the work because God's given you the ability to work in his kingdom, and he is in control of the outcome. And he can take the small things that we do, and they can produce great amounts of fruit long after we're gone, like Fannie J. Crosby. Or he can take the small things that we do and produce great amounts of fruit while we're still here. It doesn't matter what amount or the degree of success that we have, or what fruit is produced right now. What matters is that we have the opportunity to be a part of his kingdom, to will and to work for his good pleasure, as the Bible says in the book of Ephesians. And that's a good thing. And that's the most important part itself. As children of God, when we think about the great things that he's done for us, the love that he's shown for us, it should motivate us to then in turn, response to his grace, say, what can I do? What's God given me the ability to do in his kingdom? And to be motivated by love for God, to do whatever it is that we can. And then not to limit ourselves in what we think we can do, because sometimes we'll pigeonhole ourselves by thinking, well, here's what I can do, but I can do this. I could never. That's for somebody else to do. And because of that, we'll often limit ourselves in what we could do. We might not otherwise know what success we could have had if we would have just taken an opportunity to do something that we weren't comfortable doing. Moses is a perfect example of that, where he was told by God, go talk to Pharaoh. And Moses said, oh, no, I couldn't do that. I'm not a very good speaker. And God said, I made your tongue. I know what it can do. Go talk to Pharaoh. Sometimes God talks to us that way, where he's giving us an opportunity and we already have a preconceived notion of what we can accomplish or what God can accomplish through us. We just need to be open to whatever opportunity is presented on this day, whether it's a small thing or a big thing. Most of the time, it's just small things, and then realizing that God is able to take those small things and make them big. Whatever it needs to be, God will make it what it needs to be for his glory. And if you pray that, I firmly believe it will happen because it's happened in my life.
Okay. And in the last minute or two we have, talk about some of the upcoming projects or ideas you have for the channel, Michael.
Sure. So I've been singing through a series of CDs called Whatever Is. It comes from Philippians chapter 4, focusing on things, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is just, etc. All of those things. The last CD in that series is going to be coming out this fall. It's going to be Whatever Is Worthy of Praise. And I've got on my not completely on the back burner, but not yet on the front burner. I'm working on a children's CD. That's something that's been requested for many years. And I've been thinking, yes, eventually I'll get to it. We did have some focus groups and got a lot of great information out of those on how I should present that kind of material. So once I get through with this next Whatever Is Worthy of Praise, then I'll start working on a children's CD, and who knows what else after that. Hopefully still recording. I keep telling, whenever I talk about it to my wife, I say my last CD. She's like, it's not your last CD. You're not done singing after this. You've still got more singing to do. So who knows what's coming after that.
Okay. Well, I hope whatever it is, it ends up being very beneficial, not just to yourself, but for people who listen. And I'm sure you've got a lot of people out there like myself that appreciate the work you're doing and the way you present these timeless hymns.
Thank you very much.
Well, again, Michael, thanks for coming on and sharing your experiences. And if people want to get a hold of you, maybe get some of your music or collaborate or invite you to come down and do a project, how could they get a hold of you?
Reach out to me on Facebook. You can send my page a message. It's called Acapeldridge. You can send me an email, acapeldridge@gmail.com. I check that fairly regularly. Or you can comment on any of my videos on YouTube. I run through those and try to stay up to date and address a lot of questions and comments that people have. A lot of different ways to reach out to me.
Okay, very good. Michael, thanks for coming on and sharing your experiences. God bless.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.